It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, answer, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's the Full Court Press. I'm Eric Frandsen. He's Jason Walker. And we love hanging out with you on the airwaves here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. Also streaming on 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. And if you missed any past episode, any past shows, you can also find them on our website, on our mobile app, on podcast feeds, wherever you subscribe to podcasts. Search for the Full Court Press. My name, Jason's name. You'll find us. And last hour will be posted here very, very soon. So this last hour was a lot of talk about coaching changes going on and coaching salaries. We might see a great Utah State coach on the move. Hopefully not, but there's a strong potential. Rob Nielsen could be headed somewhere else. One of his top players has put her name in the transfer portal. That may be an indication of things to come. She may have done that anyway, no matter what. But Utah State volleyball has had a great run of success, and we hope that it continues. It might continue under Rob Nielsen. It might be a different person there at that position as BYU is looking for their next head coach, and he has strong ties to that institution. But the bowl season for football gets underway on Saturday. Boise State will be taking on Washington in the LA Bowl, and Utah State will be they'll be participating in their own bowl coming up here on December 22nd, facing Washington State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. But with this bowl opportunity for Utah State, it gives us an opportunity to kind of look back and reminisce on Utah State's bowl history. This will be their 17th, officially 17th.
Yeah, officially 17th. Utah State will call it their 18th. Not without merit, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, so we'll throw this out there as a question leading into these segments. Is what are some of your fond memories of Utah State participating in a bowl game? As 17 different or 18 different opportunities for Utah State to participate in bowls. Certainly it's become far more common over the last 10, 15 years for Utah State to be involved in bowl games. But they had some bowls before then. But if there were some memories that stand out to you from Utah State participating in bowls, we'd love to hear about it on our Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. And Jason, one of these earliest bowls, I guess, is the one that may be in a bit of a dispute, is if it really is a recognized bowl.
It's not the very first one. So to give you an idea, Utah State's very first bowl game in history was the 1947 Raisin Bowl. Before then, Utah State either didn't have back then, you if you won your conference, you went to a bowl game. That was kind of where it was. There weren't all that many bowl games. The Rose Bowl is like one of the first, and obviously it was Pac-12 and Big Ten. So the Aggies I think they were even independent in like the 1910s or whatnot. But they either didn't have like a fantastic record or there like wasn't a bowl game to be there. Like in 1917, they went like 7-0-1, but like there were maybe two bowls like at all.
Yeah, the whole system just didn't really exist.
Yeah. In 1936, as I've kind of alluded to earlier, they went 7-0-1, again, the same record as that 1917 season, and they were extended an invitation to the Sun Bowl. But they did not accept that because on the same day, the East-West All-Star Game was set to be played, and two of their stars, Kent Ryan and Carl Molyneux, they had accepted an invitation to play in the East-West All-Star Game, and so the Aggies declined the bowl invitation, which today would be unthinkable, but back then it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just two of our stars are playing in an all-star game, and so the team probably only had like 35 people on it, so It was something where
Different era.
Yeah, just a different era. Not really something you think about. So at the end of the 1946 season, that was the next time Utah State had the opportunity, both with how well they played and bowl season existing, to actually go to a bowl game. So the Aggies were the champion of I think it was the Mountain States Athletic Conference, if I remember the timeline correctly. They won that conference. They were in like a 3-way tie, I think. But they won the conference, and I think actually they were invited, if I have I'm reading off one of my old articles here. They had 3 invitations to bowl games: the Raisin Bowl, the Dixie Bowl, and again, the Sun Bowl. But they ended up choosing the Raisin Bowl, I think largely because of proximity, because they were bigger payouts. For instance, the Dixie Bowl was going to pay a whopping $20,000 to the Aggies to go play Villanova.
Villanova,
yeah.
Wow. That's a throwback.
But they ended up opting for the Raisin Bowl, and they went on to play San Jose State. Although not San Jose State at the time. I don't even remember if they're called like San Jose at the time. I have to go back and double check. They were I think they maybe was San Jose, maybe San Jose College. But this is a game that Utah State, from what I've read, I've gone back and read newspaper clippings. The Aggies weren't really that prepared for it. They were a good physical team, but they arrived not too many days before. They didn't really practice a whole lot. It was January 1st. This is a New Year's Day game. And San Jose State seemed to be very prepared. They ended up winning the game 20-0. There were some early opportunities for the Aggies to score, but they had some turnovers. San Jose State capitalized on them and ended up shutting the Aggies out 20-0. So there's your very first foray into bowl season.
Very early era of the bowl program. And in that, there weren't very many bowls. The bowl season really started to take off. Even in the 80s.
Probably 70s and 80s.
There were more bowls. It became more prestigious. So generally, the game of football became a better TV product, and people had made it appointment television to watch some of these games. But even then, they weren't all of them were broadcast. We didn't have the proliferation of vast sports media empires that could cover every game under the sun. So there just weren't very many bowls. But it was harder to get to a bowl.
Yeah.
And so when Utah State got to one in those earlier stages, that really meant something.
Yeah. They would take a train to the bowl game. That's the fun thing about it.
Take a train. Nice.
So I'm not going to go as in-depth on all the rest of them, but the next bowl actually is the one that's technically a bowl game. It was a bowl game. It was a postseason game. I'm just being really much of a stickler about it, saying that the Aggies have been in 17 bowls, this next one being their 17th versus Utah State, we'll say 18th. The 1947 Great Bowl is not officially recognized by the NCAA, and that's why if you go to NCAA bowl game official record books, it will have one less bowl game, because this, while it's recognized as a game that took place, and you'll find, it's not like this isn't an official game that shouldn't count, but it's not recognized as a bowl game. And it's kind of weird because in August or July, I think, it was June. So June 1947, middle of the offseason, nobody's played a game yet. The Great Bowl organizers announced that Pacific and Utah State would play each other on December 13th, the appointed day of the bowl game. So 6 months ahead of the game, Utah State was announced as playing in a bowl. And it ruffled a few feathers because the Raisin Bowl, it was the Raisin Bowl, so I remember the bowl game they just played in. They had the rights to host the champion of the Rocky Mountain Conference, and then the conference that Pacific played in, which was the California Collegiate Conference or something like that. So the Raisin Bowl had the rights. Say Utah State and Pacific won their conference, they would play in the Raisin Bowl by contract. But that would take place 2 weeks after the Great Bowl. So the Great Bowl would preempt, step in front of the Raisin Bowl, take their teams. But Utah State didn't.
Which, that's natural. Right?
Yeah.
Grapes precede raisins anyway.
That's true.
It's nature.
Utah State did not end up winning their conference, though funnily enough, Pacific did. And Pacific ended up playing this game. They beat the Aggies 35-21. Pacific was a very good team that year. They went 8-1. The Aggies went 6-4. Pacific went on to go play in the Raisin Bowl, and if I remember right, they won that game too.
Oh,
so
wow.
Pacific played in 2 bowl games that year. Fun fact.
Yeah, crazy.
So the next bowl game didn't happen until 1960, the Merlin Olsen years. They went to 2 bowl games in the Merlin Olsen years. They finally got to the Sun Bowl after the Sun Bowl tried twice to get the Aggies in a bowl game. The Aggies turned them down twice. But in 1960, the Aggies had a really good season. They ranked as high as 18th in the AP poll, which is one of the highest they ever had been until I think the 2018 season, maybe 2012. Or maybe there's another year where they were ranked 10th, or maybe that was basketball. I can't remember. But they were ranked. They lost to Utah. That was their only regular season loss. But New Mexico State, they were 10-0. This is New Mexico State is gold standard, best season ever is this 1960 season. And it's also their only ever bowl win, as they beat the Aggies 20-13 in the Sun Bowl.
Oh,
so
Aggies versus Aggies.
Yeah, or actually, no, it's their first, actually one of 2 bowl wins. Excuse me, because they did it again, 60 years later.
Yeah, New Mexico State beat Utah State in a bowl game not that long ago.
Yeah. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
1961, this is the Gotham Bowl, a very short-lived bowl. This was a year where the Aggies finished the regular season undefeated, which is one of, I think, 2 times they've ever done that. Both times they did it, there was a tie involved. The Aggies went 7-0-1. They had a tie. Their first loss came in the 1961 Gotham Bowl. The Aggies didn't do very well in bowl games early on. They lost 24-9 against Baylor. Of course, the Gotham Bowl had its own weird history where it was it was played for 3 years. There were a couple years where they couldn't find an opponent for one of the teams, and that's basically how it ended up, going defunct, because they couldn't find teams to play. But they played at the Polo Grounds up there in New York for the Gotham Bowl.
Wow.
But the Aggies starting 0-4.
Yeah. Utah State doesn't have a great rich history of wins in bowl games.
No, unfortunately not. And most of those wins come in the 21st century.
Yes.
Minor note, the 70s are kind of an interesting study because the Aggies, that was their independent years, and they finished with really good records. For instance, they won 7 or 8 games 3 or 4 times in the early 70s. But no conference meant no bowl tie-ins. So they didn't go to a bowl game. And in 1974, they beat BYU, and BYU ends up going to a bowl game instead of Utah State, which actually ended up being BYU's first ever bowl game in 1974. I forget which one. Though, fun fact, Chuck Mills, head coach of the Aggies at the time, took the Aggies on a trip to Japan. In 1971, they faced 2 teams comprised of Japanese students.
That's right. They really jump-started football in Japan. Utah State made that trip a couple of times, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I know of at least one. I haven't looked into if they did it a couple of times. I think you're right in that they did make it a couple of times. Partly because Chuck Mills, for instance, Japan, their Heisman equivalent trophy for their college football essentially is named after Chuck Mills. Who actually only recently passed away, I think, in the last few years.
Yeah, he's the godfather of football in Japan.
Yeah, so, and that was a big part of it. Now, mind you, when the Aggies went and played the Japanese in 1971, absolutely murdered them. One game was 51-6, and the other was 45-6. So the Aggies did pretty well in those years. But the Japanese were just getting started in football, so they're a lot better these days. Funnily enough, they also had a trip to Germany planned, but I don't think it ever happened. There was talk of it being planned, but when they were supposed to go do it, Chuck Mills got hired away, and the Aggies also lost their athletic director. So I think they canceled it. But nobody ever said it was canceled. It just didn't happen. It
just never happened.
Or nobody ever wrote about it. I may need to do some follow-ups with the athletic department because I'm going off newspaper clippings. But yeah, that was the 70s. The left-out bowls, they were kind of dubbed. But the Aggies, so we have a bunch of gaps. In the 20th century, it's the Aggies' time between bowl games was either measured in months or decades, because you have 2 in the 40s, 2 in the 60s, and then they also had 2 in the 90s. The 1993 Las Vegas Bowl, the first bowl the Aggies ever won. They finally got it. They beat Ball State 42-33. This is the one that I believe Matt Wells was a backup quarterback for. He was on this team. He was backing up Anthony Calvillo.
Charlie Weatherby was the head coach.
Yeah. So Yeah, so they finally managed to get a win. And speaking of Charlie Weatherby, he said of this game he wouldn't be surprised to see this one come down to the final seconds. Although he was wrong because the Aggies won pretty comfortably. They were up 21-0 at halftime.
A couple texts coming in before we move on and continue to talk about Utah State's bowl history. 2444. I wish there was a video of some of these old bowl games. It would be fun to go back and watch a different era of Aggie football.
I believe there might be video of the 93 or 97 bowl games the Aggies were in. Obviously, anything before that, don't even try.
Yeah, good luck. Then 8968. My best memory of a bowl game was when the Aggies finally won one. I was much younger and was fun to go to Las Vegas with the kids that now take me to games. Bad memories, losing to New Mexico State in 2 different bowl games.
Yeah, neither of those games should have been losses. Although, I mean, the 1960 one, like New Mexico State was dang good. Their coach was a future Hall of Famer, college football Hall of Famer. So, like, that was a pretty dang good New Mexico State team. But it was also, like, a really good Utah State team. Like, that's John Ralston, Merlin Olsen, all that. Like, kind of frustrating.
So Weatherby gets them to a bowl game and they win. He leaves to go to Navy. And then John L. Smith comes in to be the new head coach. And then he gets the Aggies to a bowl game too. And then first ever humanitarian bowl, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, first ever humanitarian bowl, later the Potato Bowl. So the Aggies actually played in the first edition of, I think, 2 or 3 different bowls, because I think the Gotham Bowl was the first one that was officially played, I think. First or second. But yeah, they played in the first ever, again, eventual Potato Bowl. You mentioned John L. Smith taking the coaching job and then leading the Aggies to a bowl game, except when the Aggies were playing in the Humanitarian Bowl, he had accepted the coaching position at Louisville. Stayed on to coach the next game, though, or to coach the bowl game. Although the funny thing is that the one anecdote I saw is that the Aggies' next coach, and I can't remember, I'm pretty sure this was the bowl game it happened in, is that their next head coach he fired, I don't remember if I noted in my article, was there at the game on the sideline watching his new team be coached by somebody else. So it's like kind of a weird situation.
It is odd
with that. So, but the game didn't go particularly well. I don't know if Coach Smith being there for kind of one last game before he left for Louisville had any impact on that.
He was checked out.
Yeah, they lost 35-19.
There was some issues with the team in Boise at a bar. I want to say there were some there were some weird things that were going on with that bowl.
I did make a note of this. I don't know what I was alluding to because I probably read some articles at the time, but I noted that off the field troubles distracted from the eventual game. I think that sentence might be a little loaded. I might have overlooked some things. This article is like 3 years old. But yeah, off the field troubles. I might have been glossed.
Putting it generously.
Because I think there was like a fight or something.
He had to go get some players.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. I did note it. So
out of jail or something like that before the bowl.
So here's I did write a paragraph about it. So I glossed over it and then I came back to it. So I'll read directly from what I wrote. It says, while in Boise, Smith apparently decided not to set curfew for his team in a game back to bite him. On the Friday night before the Monday game, 13 local police officers responded to a 911 call at Joe's Down Under Dance Club involving as many as 20 USU football players. The incident was supposedly, quote, resolved peacefully, close quote, but the club owner stated the Aggies players acted rather arrogantly. The quote being, walking across the middle of the dance floor with beer in their hands, acting like they were king of the world, sauntering and strutting, close quote. That was in the Salt Lake Tribune.
Wow.
When those players were asked to leave, other USU players physically blocked the door, preventing the bouncers from tossing out those Aggie players who were misbehaving. So that is the account I passed on from reading newspaper accounts at the time.
That's wild. That says that we got more to come, more bowl games from Utah State to dive into.
We'll go over the much better 21st century bowl history. That's the 20th century. The Aggies, one win in 6 tries.
435-339-0321. What are some of your memories of Utah State bowl appearances, outstanding performances by players, or things that happened off the field that were associated with the bowl matchup? 435-339-0321 here on the Full Court Press.
Hey, it's Aesthetics by Stina. Just wanted to say thank you to all of you and my clients for voting me silver in Best in Northern Utah. Thanks for all of your continued support.
Happy holidays from the entire team at Adams Wealth Advisors. As we celebrate the joy of this season, it's also time to plan for a financially sound future. Wondering about tax strategies or required investment distributions? Adams Wealth Advisors has the answers. The Adams Wealth team is here to guide you through any complexities and ensure a prosperous new year. Happy holidays from Adams Wealth Advisors, where achieving your financial goals is their mission. Call today to schedule an appointment, 752-1702, or search Adams Wealth Advisors online.
It's cold outside, but you can keep warm inside with a quality-built, super-efficient York furnace. Count on a furnace from York because it's backed by the strongest warranties available. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
It's back. Jarek's Fine Jewelry in Logan is having our annual Pick a Pearl event. If you've attended this in the past, you know how much fun we have. And if you haven't come before, you don't want to miss this exciting event. Still, only $10. Pick your oyster, open it that day, or save it for that stocking stuffer surprise.
Mark your calendar, Friday and Saturday, December 12th and 13th.
Pick a Pearl at Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Look for the bright green cars.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
This is Jordan with Primrose Home Care and Hospice. When it comes to home care, it's important for you to know you do have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of home care services, remember Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient, not the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Call for a free home safety evaluation, 787-1369, and visit primrosecare.com. Primrose Home Care and Hospice. We're your home team.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Young Power Sports offers free pickup and drop-off for service, plus free preseason checks on all snowmobiles. Located just off South Main in Logan, Young Power Sports Logan, where your winter adventure begins. They also sponsor our text line here, 435-339-0321, of the bowl history for Utah State football. They're going bowling again, headed to the famous Idaho Potato Bowl on December 22nd, and want to get your memories of bowl games past. Certain games or certain moments or performances in games, or sometimes things surrounding the games off the field that made things interesting, as they did in the Humanitarian Bowl in, was that 1997?
Yeah, 1997.
So Utah State's bowl history, only one win to this point. And a lot of years of obscurity in between bowl appearances for Utah State football.
Yeah, basically a decade or two in between a couple of bursts, because 1946, technically they played two bowl games in the calendar year 1947. They played on January 1st of 47. It was post the 1946 season, but January 1st, 47. Then on December 13th, 1947. Then they played in the 1960 Sun Bowl, 1961 Gotham Bowl, and then would have been nicer if they'd have gone back-to-back years, but in the 90s. But 93 and 97, they went to the Las Vegas Bowl, then the Humanitarian Bowl. So really sparse, and as you mentioned, only one win through the entire 20th century. But going into their third century as a football program, going from the 19th, 20th, and into the 21st, the Aggies, it took them another decade, but finally started going again. Mind you, I think it was their maybe second or third longest bowl drought. I think second longest bowl drought between 97 and 2011, where, again, they just didn't go to a bowl game. Like, I know there had been some stretches before, 1947 to 1960, and then 1961 to 1993, but they had a pretty big drought after those years in the late 90s. But in 2011, they finally get back to a bowl game. It's the Potato Bowl again, or I guess not again. It was the Humanitarian Bowl the first time they played in it. It had been renamed to the Potato Bowl. Still a game played in Boise. But this was Gary Anderson leading the team, restarting what would essentially be the modern era of Utah State athletics. It's kind of the, we talk about like Utah State since 2011 or like since 2012. Like it's basically since the start of the Gary Anderson era of the first one. This is where modern Utah State football has found a lot more success. And it starts with a 2011 Potato Bowl.
Yeah, from then until now, they've only missed a bowl game like three times maybe?
I think 3 times because they missed it in 2016, 2020, and then 2024. But talk about the Aggies struggling to get wins. They, again, didn't win against Ohio. And kind of a heartbreaker is Ohio scored a touchdown with 13 seconds left.
Yeah. That was a frustrating game because Utah State had this. Well, Ohio had the better record. There was a lot of feeling that Utah State football was the better team. That was the season where Chucky Keaton gets hurt midseason. Adam Kennedy comes in. Things turn around for Utah State. They go on a roll. They get to bowl eligibility. Michael Smith, Robert Turbin, Kerwin Williams, they had that massive three-headed monster in rushing. In that game, Michael Smith, 157 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Turbin had 100 yards rushing, but the defense couldn't keep Ohio out of the end zone in that fourth quarter because they had the lead, and then Ohio wins it at the end. It was a heartbreaking loss for Utah State, but there was still this sense that there was a lot of excitement about Utah State getting to a bowl game again. Great crowd support there from Logan, as there's a real feeling like Utah State is turning a corner culturally with their football program.
Yeah, so as you said, beginning to turn a corner there. And in 2012, they finally do turn a corner. I mean, WAC champions, 11-2 overall record, finished the season 16th in the AP poll. And they go to, the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Once again, they take on Toledo, another team from the MAC. But while Utah State had struggled in bowl games previous, they did not struggle, at least particularly in one quarter. At the end of the third quarter, the score was 13-6. It was a close game. And heck, Toledo would make it 13-9 with 7 minutes 28 seconds left to play. Eric, 13-9. You know what the final score of that game was?
I remember Utah State had a healthy margin of victory, but it didn't feel like it was that close.
41-15. Kerwin Williams scored 3 straight touchdowns, a 63-yard run, a 5-yard run, and a 25-yard run. And that made for 21 straight points by the Aggies. Toledo did get one back after that third touchdown by Williams. They got an 87-yard kickoff return. They failed the 2-point. That's why they go to 15 instead of 16. But then the Aggies, up 34-15, get one final touchdown run from Joe Hill with a minute 42 left. They come away with a 41-15. It just took them a minute to get their touchdowns in, but they got several big plays. For instance, Chucky Keaton ran for 62 yards, which I think remains one of the longest runs by a quarterback in Utah State history. Bryson Barnes might have broken that.
He might have broke that this last year.
He might have. I might have to look into that. But he got the Aggies' first touchdown, would put them up 7-3, and they would actually never trail again in this game. But yeah, the Aggies finally get a bowl, and in convincing fashion, once they started getting things going in the fourth quarter, though it was close for most of the game.
If I remember, Kerwin Williams had a monster performance in that game. He was one of those guys that was kind of like the third string kind of guy, a third down back, or not third down back, but third back in the rotation the year before. But this year it was like, this is his team, and he had a monster performance for Utah State in that one in 2012.
He had like a monster season, but to the game specifically, 235 rushing yards on 18 attempts, 3 touchdowns. He had 34 receiving yards. But yeah, that whole 2012 season, he had 1,512 yards.
Wow.
And also, he was a good kick returner early in his career. Of course, they actually returned kicks back then.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, because he had 1,000+ return yards. These days, you might be lucky to get 1,000 return yards in your whole career. But yeah, so that's the 2012. And then in 2013...
So Gary Anderson leaves after that.
Yeah, Matt Wells takes over.
There was that whole thing. Was he going to stay? Is he going to go? There's an opening in Wisconsin and a few other places. Gary was staying and sticking around, saying all the right things. He went on the full court press and said he prayed about it and felt like he was going to stay in Logan. And so everybody's like, okay, this is going to be good. On the way home from that win, he's letting all of his players know, I'm taking this job in Wisconsin.
Yeah. So the Aggies go into 2013 with a new head coach. Had some good games. They were really close in a road loss at Utah. But overall go 9-5. They appear in their first year in the Mountain West. They go to the Mountain West championship game, but they lose to Fresno State and Derek Carr. Or was it David Carr? I couldn't remember which. Derek Carr. Yeah, I knew it was one of the Carr brothers who would go on to get sacked a bajillion times in the NFL. But they lost to number 24 Fresno State. And then as coincidence would have it, they would play the new 24th ranked team, Northern Illinois, who had at the time the third place Heisman, the second runner-up essentially to the Heisman, Jordan Lynch.
Yeah, a lot of hype around the Northern Illinois quarterback. He had a great season, but Utah State made it tough for him. That Utah State defense really did not allow him to get comfortable.
He was just about guaranteed heading into this game to become the first ever, and I think would have remained until this day, the only ever quarterback to throw for 2,000 yards and rush for 2,000 yards, as he had over 1,900 yards. The dude was averaging, whatever that comes out to, 1,900 yards in like 12 or 13 games. He was basically a shoo-in. He was going to do it against Utah State, except, as you said, he didn't. He threw for 216 yards, but he only ran for 39, leaving him about 60 yards short of becoming, running for 2,000 yards as a quarterback and throwing for 2,000. He had like 2,800 yards, so he was well over that mark. The Aggies just did not make it easy for him. This was the defense with like the Vigils and Jake Dowdy, Kyler Fackrell, Nevin Lawson. Like,
there are a lot of dudes.
Most of the who's who of great Utah State defensive players. Brian Sweet was on this team as well. Basically one of the best defenses the Aggies have had, comes from this era, and they shut down Northern Illinois to the tune of winning 21-14 as the Aggies took the lead in the second half. They trailed 7-6 at halftime. They scored twice in the second half to make it 21-14 at the end.
It was exciting. Utah State with a win over a top 25 team.
Yep.
It was a nice bowl game, bowl atmosphere for Utah State. So there was a lot of excitement and momentum on Utah State's side as they were moving into the Mountain West that year.
Yeah. Quick text, 8968, before we get too far away. A few notes that we've made saying, he said, I believe the Aggies would have gone to quite a few bowl games in the 60s and 70s. They would have gone to more if they'd been in a bowl or if they'd been in a conference. They would have gone to several in the 70s. And probably 2 or 3 more in the 60s. And then I made a note about a coach being on the sideline during a bowl game when he was the future coach while the old coach was coaching. That was John L. Smith. And he was saying it was Dave Arslanian. I double-checked that, but 8968, and that's probably who it was.
Arslanian came from Weber State.
Yeah. But if it was, again, it might have been that, again, I think that 97 where it's like, I remember reading about in a bowl game, and I'm pretty sure it was 97, a coach leaving, coaching the bowl game, and his replacement on the sideline watching the team. But yeah, back to the modern era. So we just finished up 2013. The Aggies win 2 straight bowl games, the first time they had ever won 2 straight bowl games. And they would go on to a third where they face UTEP in the New Mexico Bowl. 2014, this is a season that, was this the one where like Chucky kept getting injured?
Yeah. Then
this is kind of a weird
There were a lot
season.
of different quarterbacks.
Yeah, they
that
had
season.
It's 6 different players attempt to pass that season. Darryl Garrettson, Kent Myers, Chucky Keaton, Craig Harrison, and then a couple position players, Ronald Butler, and apparently Nick Vigil threw 2 passes that year. I don't know what he was doing on the field on offense, but he threw 2 passes. Then they had a wide receiver throw 2 touchdowns, actually. So yeah, a lot of different quarterbacks. This is where current offensive coordinator Kevin McGivern was the offensive coordinator or quarterback coach, or maybe both, for this season, I believe.
I don't think. Wow, was he the coordinator?
It was either this season or the 2013. But I'm pretty sure this was the year.
Could have been this year.
I'm pretty sure it was. 'Cause I remember writing about how he had to deal with this mess of quarterbacks who kept getting injured and kept having to jump between them. And I think ended up winning a Coordinator of the Year prize basically for it, for his job. But the New Mexico Bowl, this is the Aggies in the New Mexico Bowl for the first time going up against UTEP. And that Aggie defense, that great Aggie defense struck again. They held UTEP to 6 points en route to a 21-6 win. Kent Myers didn't do a whole lot of offense. He threw for 68 yards and a pick, but did rush for 70 yards. Nick Vigil, what? Hold on a second. Did he really rush the ball 8 times for 3?
This was a season where he got put in as a surprise package against BYU, and then it was working, and so they would still bring him in from time to time.
This says he ran the ball 8 times for 34 yards and a touchdown, which is more times than their running back touched the ball. I'm not as plugged into this era of Aggie football as maybe I should have been, especially because I was about on a mission at this point in my life. But yeah, that's it's a bowl game I haven't dove into as much as I did the 20th century ones.
Yeah, that was a wild season, and despite the injuries at quarterback, Matt Wells and his coaching staff deserve a ton of credit for how they were able to still manufacture victories despite a lot of questions and concerns about what was going on with the health of the roster. And they were able to get to a bowl game, and even though Kent Myers was very young, inexperienced, they were able to come up with a game plan to beat UTEP, done largely because of what they did defensively. That was 3 bowl wins in a row for Utah State.
Yeah, 3 bowl wins in a row, and they would go on to a 5th straight bowl game, which is the longest consecutive bowl game appearance streak the Aggies have had. They go back to the Potato Bowl, a bowl game they lost most of their appearances in, and they go on to face Akron. And this was another really close game. The Aggies led briefly in the second half. Hunter Sharp catches the touchdown pass to make it 14-13. But Akron would go up 23-14 with 8 minutes left, and the Aggies were left scrambling, trying to rally. They scored a touchdown and got they scored a touchdown to make it 23-21, but could not get another score after that. Akron sneaks out a win against the Aggies, a game where both Chucky Keaton and Kent Myers were splitting time. They both threw about 25 passes, combined for about 200-plus yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick, but they just couldn't get enough on offense to match what Akron was doing.
Yeah, and this was it was a weird season too for this one because all the success that Utah State had enjoyed on the last year of Gary Anderson, the first few years of Matt Wells, it started to taper off. Like things were not as connected. The team was good enough to get to a bowl win, but this was where frustration started to mount and grow among Aggie fans. Like what's going on here with the team? Going back and forth with quarterbacks. Players kind of walked in thinking things were just going to be automatic. They weren't part of that team that worked hard to develop the success that they had. It started to unravel a little bit for Utah State. But they're still able to get to a bowl game, not able to get the win. They were close. They're competitive. But in the end, beating a team that a lot of fans thought that they should have been able to win.
Yeah. So that ended the bowl game winning streak for the Aggies, which remains their 3-game win streak, and 12, 13, 14 is their longest to this day. And 5 bowl games in a row ended up being snapped the next year. 2016, they went 3-9. A year later, though, in 2017, they would return to a bowl game. They went to the Arizona Bowl, the first and only time they've appeared in that bowl game. And this was the emergence of Jordan Love this season. Talked about a lot where he ended up taking over for Kent Myers, where he just showed that he had a lot of potential and a lot of ability, helping the Aggies get to a bowl game, and they would face New Mexico State, who in this 2017 season was appearing in their first bowl game since 1961. If you remember who they played in 1961.
Yeah, it was a really big deal for New Mexico State. They were highly motivated. Utah State was trying to turn the corner with their program a little bit. And this was one of those that Utah State should have won. Dominic Eberle normally was money kicking field goals, but in this game, he was off.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, I think he was like sick. He got food poisoning or something like that. There's days before. He was not healthy. Usually he was money and kicking field goals, but on that day, he was only 2 for 6, and that literally cost the Aggies the win.
Yeah, the Aggies missed kicks. They missed a kick, I think, in overtime. Of course, New Mexico State got the ball after the Aggies, but I think they missed kicks late in the game, and yeah, going 2 for 6. Shades of, I guess maybe the predecessor to what happened to UNLV this year. But that was an interesting special teams, because another interesting anecdote is the Aggies. So New Mexico State, they scored on their first possession, they kick a field goal. The Aggies get a 96-yard kickoff return from Savon Scarver, the All-American himself. But then New Mexico State got their own kickoff return on the ensuing kickoff.
That's right, yes.
They go up 10-7. Eventually the game goes to overtime. New Mexico State wins on a walk-off 21-yard touchdown run. But yeah, this was the Dominique Eberle nightmare game. He would go on to be the name in terms of kickers. Like, it's just kind of weird. Like, one of the worst kicking performances by a kicker came from the man who is basically the best kicker. And there's one guy who's kind of close to him, Nick Diaz, I think. But Dominique Eberle owns every kicking record, leading scorer in program history, and all that. So, but that's 2017. We got to take another break here, and we'll kind of get through obviously, as we get closer, most people remember these most recent bowl games. But we'll get through the rest of these coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
It's ski season, Cache Valley. This is Mark at the Sportsman, where we mount bindings. If you need bindings mounted to your skis or snowboards, in most cases, we can do it in 48 hours or less. That's right, 48 hours or less. At the Sportsman, we can also tune, sharpen, wax, and repair your skis or board so they are ready for the season. Usually, we can get those done in 48 hours as well. For 73 years, we have been taking care of skis and boards only at the Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan, with tons of parking in the back.
Thank you for letting Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, the Allergy Clinic, and the Hearing Aid Center care for your family this year. Be sure to call us for an appointment before the end of the year to make the most of your cafeteria or flex funds. Located in Providence and North Logan, Cache Valley ENT also has offices in Box Elder, Rich, Bear Lake, and Franklin counties. The entire team at Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat wish you and your family a healthy holiday season. Go to CacheValleyENT.com for details. Most insurance plans, including Select Health, are accepted.
Holiday parties and events at the Riverwoods Conference Center offer a festive and fun holiday atmosphere. Paired with catering from Elements Restaurant, your special occasion can include tasty hors d'oeuvres, delicious entrees, and decadent desserts that always deliver excellence. Now accepting reservations for this holiday season. The Riverwoods Conference Center and Elements Restaurant easily accommodate large or small events. Visit theriverwoods.com or call 750-5151.
Looking for a luxurious local space to host your next gathering? The Hive Event Center in downtown Logan brings modern elegance to your wedding, private party, or business event. Your guests will be amazed at the glamorous design, and you'll benefit from the advanced tech included in every rental, from DIY parties to full-service packages. 255 South Main in Logan behind Beehive Grill. Luxury lives here. The Hive is your place to gather.
Luxury lives here. Luxury lives here. The Hive.
See us online at thehivelogan.com.
The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Looking back on Utah State's bowl history, some of the memories, some of the standout performances. What do you recall? What do you remember? What stood out to you, whether it's on the field or off the field? Is what happened in 1997. Perhaps one of the bigger notables was off the field.
Well, there have been other off the field things. For instance, there was one year where they ran into like an Instagram model who, also had other things that she modeled for. And apparently there was a whole thing off the field. It was like, it wasn't anything big, but it happened. Like there's a few different years where
there were some off the field things in a bowl coming up that we haven't discussed yet that had a role to play.
Yeah, so there's
how that bowl ended up.
Interesting things there. But let's get to 2018. So we just finished up with 2017.
Before we do that, we got a text that came through.
Text?
Yeah,
okay.
2947 texting in. Eberle is probably the greatest kicker in the history of Utah State. It's weird he's not on an NFL roster anymore.
Yeah, he bounced around a couple. And I think he actually has a extra point or maybe even a field goal under his belt at the NFL level. I want to say with the Lions. I think the biggest thing with him is that although he definitely had an above average leg for college, I think he just ended up not having as big of a leg, or also just not, I mean, kicking's kind of brutal to get into. It's really hard to get into.
And then once you're there, you're there.
Yeah, and once you're there, like you can kind of, as long as you don't screw up royally, we were talking about the oldest players and active in the NFL, and like 3 of them are kickers. And Adam Vinatieri, who played forever, and George Bland was a kicker, played forever. Kicker in his later, exclusively kicker in his later years. But like, yeah, he just couldn't break through fully enough. But I think part of it was he just didn't have like the absurd leg those guys have, who in practice can hit from like 75 is probably their max range. I mean, realistically, they're only hitting from the 60s. But I mean, somebody kicked a 70-yard field goal, I think, in the preseason. It's like, I think he just didn't have that, because he could hit from the 50s. I don't know if he had the 60s in his range, which is usually what they're looking for these days in the NFL, is to have that just enormous leg. And I think he just came up a little, like he was just on the fringe of having the NFL leg, and they just ended up leaning to somebody else. He didn't get to have the NFL career that I thought a lot of us thought he would have had a chance at.
But let's get back to the Bulls. Utah State had the string of success. They're winning bowl games, and then they started to stumble. They didn't even make a bowl game. They start to come back. You have Jordan Love stepping in kind of near the end of the season. The year previous, Aggies are in a bowl game with him as a redshirt freshman. Then as his sophomore year, which his breakout year, Utah State gets to another bowl, and it was a Jordan Love show all over the place.
Yeah, it was. He rewrote the record book. Chucky Keaton wrote the record book in 2012. Jordan Love rewrote it in 2018, although Logan Bonner would go on to rewrite it in 2021. But it was just the Aggies all over the place. They barely lost to a ranked Michigan State team. Lost on the road against a ranked Boise State team. Their only losses all year were to ranked teams. It's also the year they beat BYU 45-20 at LaVell Edwards Stadium. Jalen Davis, the leading receiver for the Aggies that day, or the Cougars.
For the Cougars,
should specify.
You mean? Yeah.
Leading receiver for the Cougars, over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. But they would go on to face North Texas, who had a pretty solid year. They went 9-4 that year, I think overall, 9-3 to that point. They were a really good team. They had a really good quarterback themselves, really good receiver. Mason Fine was actually the quarterback, although one of their top receivers, I forget who, it might have been Rico Busey, I think was his name. One of their top receivers missed the game. And they had, I think, one of their top pass rushers too. They actually had some injury problems. And Mason Fine actually probably should have gotten an award for how much he was trying to power through that game, but he was also injured in that game. And he had to leave. The Aggies, and with North Texas having a lot of those injury troubles, and also I think we're just the better team, they end up blowing out North Texas 52-13. Wasn't even close. That was the first Aggie bowl game I actually ever attended, funnily enough.
Gerald Bright rushed for over 100 yards. He had 2 receivers that went for more than 100. Jalen Green had 151. Aaron Vaughns had 109. It was, like we said, it was a Jordan Love show. Almost 360 yards, 4 touchdowns. He did throw 1 pick, but that was a magical season for Utah State, where that was very common. They had scores like that all season long. They could score quickly from anywhere on the field, and the bowl game was no different.
Yeah. So moving on to 2019, we'll get this really quick, so we got to hit another break. Devin Tompkins actually entered the show as he was part of this 2019 team, I think in a limited capacity, because I think he didn't break out until like 2021. He had actually a couple of touchdowns, but the Aggies faced Kent State. And oddly enough, current San Diego State head coach Sean Lewis was the head coach of the Kent State Golden Flashes at the time. And this, I mentioned how New Mexico State, their only bowl wins ever have been, or at least, I don't know if they won one when they won like 10-3 the other year, but they won their first ever bowl game against the Aggies and second ever bowl game against the Aggies. Well, Kent State, their only win and their entire history came against Utah State in this 2019 Frisco Bowl. They won 51-41. They scored 25 points in the fourth quarter. The Aggie defense just fell apart in the fourth quarter. They didn't do great the rest of the game, but they completely fell apart in the fourth quarter, and Kent State just kind of runs away with it in the end. The Aggies were trying to keep up. Jordan Love was doing his darndest as he threw for 317 yards, 3 touchdowns, completed 77% of his passes. But the Aggies couldn't stop Dustin Crum, who ran for 290 threw for 290, ran for another 150 in this game.
Yeah, I think that was what I remember being so frustrating about that matchup is that Utah State rush defense could not stop Crum. And Gary Anderson, this is Gary Anderson 2.0. We're like, where's the defense? This guy is supposed to be a defensive savant, and it was not happening. But one of the things that this bowl game is known for is a little incident before the bowl game where a couple of Aggie football players got ratted out for smoking some marijuana. Shouldn't have been. And there was controversy surrounding Jordan Love involved in that.
I know Gary was not happy with
he was
Cache Valley Daily.
Very upset with our reporting on that, but we were reporting on the facts. And so there were some distractions leading into that bowl game for Utah State, and ultimately, didn't get the win. They put up enough points to win. They just couldn't stop Kent State.
Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe Jordan Love should have smoked. I don't know if he needed to smoke more weed. He played really well, apparently.
We got to take another time out. A few more bowl games to get in, and our show today focusing on Utah State's bowl history. Some of the great performances, the really amazing memories for good and bad for Utah State football in its bowl history. We'll continue the discussion next here on the Full Court Press.
Some companies pack it in when winter hits, not Top Shed. Cold, snow, wind, we build anyway, on site, all winter, all year. Logan, Tremont, and Preston, Malad, wherever you are in northern Utah, southern Idaho, or Wyoming, we bring the crew to you. Because around here, Mother Nature might slow traffic, but she can't cancel Top Shed. Top Shed, making sheds great again. Call 435-760-7766 or visit topshedusa.com.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the 5th year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
When the snow starts flying, be sure your tires are ready. At Express Tire, they work with all vehicles and all tire sizes with safety and comfort a priority. As a Point S Tire team member, you're backed by a nationwide warranty that includes roadside protection. No appointment needed. Just stop in and they'll get your tires winter ready. 3200 North Main.
Express Tire. Tires for less.
Express Auto, where tires and service come together.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. We've been thinking about what you're going to get each other for Christmas, and we want to help out a little bit. Jewelry. The bling is cool, but didn't you do that recently? USU season tickets. No. Well, maybe. And if you do, call me. We'll go together. A hot tub. Yeah, they're cozy for 30 minutes, but let me suggest something that'll keep you cozy and supported and help your day go better. A mattress at My Mattress. The best time of the year to buy is right now. Come in today and sleep better tonight. The best Christmas gift possible.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Utah State is going bowling, taking on Washington State in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl on December 22nd. Kickoff at noon in Boise. And little birdie told me, stay tuned, keep listening. There may be ways that we're going to help get you there.
Ooh.
So, and I'm not just looking at you, Jason.
Yeah, I believe. Oh wait, no, that was I got my credential for the basketball game on Saturday.
Yeah, well,
I got to do my credential.
We got to get your
Potato Bowl one.
Yeah, we got to get some of that stuff figured out. But talking about bowl games and bowl history for Utah State as we get ready for their bowl, let's move forward to Blake Anderson, his inaugural season as a head coach at Utah State University. Turns out to be a magical season for the Aggies. First win on the road against, at the time, a P4 program, winning at Washington State, setting a lot of records with Logan Bonner. Some outstanding dynamic wide receivers, and they win the Mountain West Conference Championship, which gets them to the inaugural Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl, to face another Pac-12 team in Oregon State.
Yeah, like the third time they played in like the first or second edition of a bowl.
That's right.
So apparently that was a theme for the Aggies. And they got things started off a little slow. They gave up a touchdown to Oregon State, who scored on their first possession, though. Into the second quarter, it was still 7-0. And that's where Logan Bonner actually got injured.
Again.
Well, this was the first time.
He got knocked around a lot.
Yeah, but like he actually had to leave the game. And in comes Cooper Lega, as he was referred to by the announcers, who on his first ever collegiate pass attempt throws a 62-yard pass to Devin Tompkins, ties it up at 7 apiece. Oregon State would take a 10-7 lead, but then the Aggies would go up 14-10, then 17-10, then 24-10 late in the third quarter as Cooper Lega threw his second touchdown pass of the day. And the Aggies would finish things off 24-13, capping another 11-win season for the Aggies.
Yeah, special season for Utah State that year. And then the following year, Utah State goes to the First Responder Bowl. Aggies finished the season just 6-6. They make bowl eligibility. Under Blake Anderson, they were always bowl eligible. Never quite as special as that first year. But the magic was kind of wearing off for Utah State. They faced Memphis. And there's some hope that maybe Utah State can turn things around here and beat Memphis, who was also 6-6 going into the bowl. Well, the Tigers manhandled the Aggies in that one.
Yeah, I think this is my first bowl game working for Cache Valley Daily, if I recall correctly. I was at this game I'm pretty sure it was with Cache Valley Daily, but yeah, it didn't go well. 38-10. Seth Hennigan has a huge game for Memphis. I think he would go on to transfer somewhere else and end up having a pretty good career. Or had another really good follow-up season for Memphis. I forget the details, but Utah State just did not show up, did not play well.
Bishop Davenport led the Aggies in passing.
Oh, yeah.
So I tell you, it was a weird game.
Yeah, well, I think he had to come in as an injury reserve because Lega starts, and then I think Levi Williams came in, and then he did his ankle or something on what was a decent run, but then he barely plays, and then Bishop Davenport has to come in. Did admirably for a true freshman quarterback, but the Aggies weren't doing anything on offense or defense the entire game.
No, and then the following year, Utah State goes back to the famous Idaho Potato Bowl, taking on Georgia State. Once again, 2 6-6 squads facing each other. Opportunity for Utah State to finish the season on a high note with a winning record, but again, they get manhandled in the bowl game, losing 45-22 to Georgia State.
Yeah, and Georgia State had a bunch of players leave their program and enter the transfer portal. I think the Aggies had a few, but most of their transfer portal problems would occur after the game. But multiple offensive linemen, their star running back, I think some key defensive players. Georgia State was playing with a bit of a skeleton crew on with their team losing a bunch of their stars, and the Aggies at least had their stars for the moment. But they just couldn't get it done. Levi Williams was, I believe started this game, although McKay Hillstead got in at one point, but gave up a bajillion rushing yards. Freddie Brock, their third string running back, ran for 276 yards. Their starting quarterback ran for 111. And they ended up rushing for 386 yards as a team.
That's just incredible.
And the Aggies' run defense just did not show up. The offense was kind of there, but just didn't. They couldn't hold a candle to what Georgia State did, who scored 31 points in the first half.
Yeah, it's crazy. So that's Utah State's bowl history. They will add to that history coming up in about a week and a half as they go back to Boise.
Hopefully add a win. They haven't won since 2021.
It's been a minute. They're due, facing Washington State, who is also 6-6. One of these teams will finish with a winning record. The other won't. Will the Aggies have that win? And will there be a fan support there for Utah State? Hopefully we get a lot of crowd there with the 4-hour drive to Boise. Kickoffs at noon, so a chance to get up there and back in the same day if you're crazy and you really want to try that. But that's going to do it for us tonight here on the Full Court Press. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sharing the memories on Utah State's bowl history on this special Full Court Press. Have a great night, everybody. We'll be back at it again tomorrow.
The home for Sports Talk Radio, KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.